Oh man, not again. I'm in a pretty rough situation, y'all. If I don't get my aiming down pat, I'm gonna take last place in the annual throwing objects at targets competition again. And the only prize they give out for that is a black eye. I've been getting last place in this thing for as long as I can remember. But that's all about to change, I hope. It's just that this is not working out for me. I need to do something else to improve my aim. If only there were some game out there that could... Oh, hey, Yoshi's Island. This is one of the greatest games of all time. Yeah, and an orange is a grape. I've had a rather long history of not liking Yoshi, but I feel like most of that hate is a bit unjustified. I've always liked him in... well... Christ, maybe not. I guess my Yoshi hatred all started with Yoshi's Island DS. I was young, impressionable, and unable to get past this one level that decided that it would never end. It is in the name. Thankfully, I was able to cleanse that sin with Yoshi's Woolly World. I love this game. This game is one of the sole reasons why I go for 100% in my games nowadays. There were so many fun little collectibles in this game, and it was nowhere near as much of an uneven experience as Yoshi's Island DS. But just when this story was about to have a happy ending, oops. Yoshi's New Island. The less said about it, the better. I got into this game too, and unlike Yoshi's Island DS, I actually went and beat it. Unfortunately though, I never recovered. But along with those games, there was another. Super Mario Advance 3 Yoshi's Island on the Wii U Virtual Console. I think it's pretty self-explanatory why I never got into this one. It's a console version of a portable version of a console game. Of course, I didn't really know that at the time. I was 9. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but coming from present-day me's perspective, why didn't they just offer the original SNES version? Yoshi's Island. Oh yeah, I'm supposed to be talking about this, aren't I? I first encountered this game on the SNES Classic Mini Console. I found out about so many SNES games through this little guy. Super Mario World, Earthbound, Link to the Past, and I just didn't get it. I was 11 at the time, and my interest in all this retro garbage hadn't yet been ignited. I mean, why would you want to play this when you could play this? I hate you. One such case of this was between Yoshi's Island and Yoshi's Woolly World. I played the first world of the game, and it simply felt like a lesser version of Woolly World. And while present me screams in agony over the sins of my past, 2 years went by and Nintendo finally decided to re-release Yoshi's Island through their online service. And history repeats itself. I played through the first world once again, and at this point, I just figured maybe I should wait to play this on real hardware. Basically, it was an excuse to not touch the game for another 3 years. And so, when the time came, I had an SNES, I had the game for the SNES, and I played for the first world. I have come to the realization that I hate myself. Thankfully, I got bored one night and finally gave the game a proper shot. And it finally clicked. 9 years later, I beat every world, I got every perfect score, and I had so much fun. But now isn't the time for fun. I have a competition to attend, and if I show up without any throwing skills... Let's play Yoshi's Island. The game opens up with a story, and I'll be honest, if this was 1995, I would be spooked. Before this, Mario games would sort of just let you read the instruction manual to understand what was going on. Which is fair, I'm glad Nintendo's making sure their audience isn't illiterate, but it made it so that whenever they would do something different, it was creepy. So, while this whole opening movie shtick isn't any new territory for them nowadays, it was certainly a substantial jump in the story department on quite a few levels. In summary though, the gist of the opening is that a Magic Koopa named Kamek picked up the hobby of child kidnapping and made an attempt to steal the Mario Brothers from the stork delivering them to their parents. However, he only ever managed to steal baby Luigi, and baby Mario fell down onto a Yoshi's back on Yoshi's Island. So it's confirmed, Yoshi does own land. Lucky him. Baby Mario also drops down with his own map leading straight to where his brother is. Unfortunately, unlike Nintendo's audience, Yoshi is illiterate. Luckily, Baby Mario is a psychic, naturally, and he just knows where his brother is. And just like that, we're off to the tutorial. Something that is also very new to the Mario formula. I haven't really mentioned it, but this game's full title is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, but it sure does not feel like it. Super Mario World is as traditional as traditional platformers usually are, but in this game, its supposed sequel, the gameplay and movement options are completely different. The goal is still to get to the end of the level, thankfully, but the path to get there is delivered in its own unique way. For starters, the levels are much more dynamic, having you moving up and around and all over the place, which is more apparent in some of the later levels, which feel like their own small mazes. Also, Yoshi's movement is enhanced by a flutter jump, which goes a long way, not only saving me from tight circumstances, but also benefiting the general level design. Perhaps most importantly, the game is presented in an escort mission format, so while Yoshi is invincible to nearly all obstacles aside from lava spikes and pits, whenever Yoshi is hit, he'll drop Baby Mario, and a countdown will begin. And if it ever hits 0, BLAM! Human trafficking. You can collect stars or hop through a checkpoint ring to get some extra digits added to your countdown, but that still doesn't help with the real punishment for getting hit. But beyond the tutorial, the first level introduces us to creating and throwing eggs. This is what I came here for. You'll be doing this throughout the whole thing to defeat enemies and interact with a whole bunch of objects. You can only carry 6 eggs at a time, so you have to make sure that your aim is on point so that you still have eggs for when you really need them, and so you don't humiliate yourself. Speaking of the first level though, it's a pretty good introductory level that makes sure to highlight the unique things that this game does to separate itself from its predecessors. And that goes for the rest of World 1 as well. It does a great job at introducing all of this game's quirks and mechanics. Each of them are able to stand apart from each other effortlessly, giving a few mechanics the spotlight and then abruptly moving on. It's a perfect little taste of what this game's all about, but it is certainly the least interesting part of this game. At this point, the game is still trying to get you used to its own formula, so the stages are largely simplistic and tutorialized. Also, I don't think it's that hard of a take to say that auto-scroll levels aren't fun, and there's like 2 of them here. A great start, but the game gets much better as it goes along. But something that is consistently incredible throughout this whole game are the graphics.
Wait a second. This isn't the script. This is a joke book.
This is an SNES game. I still can't believe how long it took me to figure that out.
Oh my god.
The graphics of this time period were mostly of the 16-bit variety. However, things were starting to shift over to 32 bits during 1995 when this game was released. Both Sega and Sony had made their forays into more advanced hardware, and Nintendo responded with a white flag. To be fair though, the Virtual Boy wasn't really put up there as the next big thing, rather, something to hold everyone over until the Nintendo 64. But in tandem with the Virtual Boy, Nintendo also took up the pastime of pushing the SNES to its limits. They did this for 3 consecutive years with the Donkey Kong Country games, Super Mario RPG was a pseudo 3D top-down spectacle, and perhaps most relevantly, Yoshi's Island. This game uses something that the developers called Morphmation, a name that they were just praying to catch on. It allows the characters to squash and stretch in all of these crazy ways, but I honestly don't care about it that much, because I find the backgrounds and sprites in this game to be the real perfection here. Everything looks so crisp and stunning for an SNES game, making this game age way better than it has any right to. Many of the other graphical showcases for the SNES don't look the greatest nowadays, but this game feels timeless. It doesn't feel like the graphical style of the game is held back in any way by the time in which it released, and instead, it enhances the precise artistry of every sprite, background, terrain, all of it. Maybe I'm just saying this because future Yoshi games would find it rather difficult to stick to one specific style, but this is the definitive Yoshi art style to me. Though, if the start of the game is all well and good, the gameplay ain't too hard to grasp, and the game is beautiful, what gives? Why didn't I get into this game initially?
Well, you're gonna have to wait on that question. I'm on a quest to find my patience. Oh, there it is.
I am one for fully completing the games that I play. I want to experience the most of what the games I have to offer. There are certain exceptions, like games that take hundreds of hours before you finally finish it. Mark my words though, I will get all the achievements in Miitopia someday. But there are also games that are just flat out hard, and yeah, this is one of those games. Every stage in the game has a score system by which you will be graded at the end of each based on how many flowers, red coins, and stars you collected. There are 5 flowers and 20 red coins in each stage, with the maximum countdown that you can have being 30. And if you get all of that, you get 100 for that stage. Now, if you did that for every stage in a specific world, you unlock an extra and bonus stage, with one of them being a test of all of your skills up to that point, while the other is an endlessly replayable version of one of the bonus minigames you can sometimes get to play at the end of every stage. These bonus minigames give you items that make the completion process that much easier, because my god, why is this game so difficult? In the earlier stages, none of this is really that bad, but even then, it can be incredibly annoying when you get to the end of a stage and it turns out you missed a single red coin and you have no idea where it is. And when you do get farther in the game, you have to deal with both that and the levels being tough as nails. Especially the extra stages, some of these were just cruel at points. However, most of this trouble is exclusive to a completionist run, as beating the game without caring about all that stuff is pretty easy. Didn't stop me from buying the player's guide. This is the official player's guide for Yoshi's Island. Why wouldn't I own this? I have a very strong affinity for the player's guides Nintendo released during this era, when they will go through all of this effort just to tell you something that you probably already knew. It makes sense why they stopped making these, but I quite enjoy flipping through all of the artwork and little quips that it has to offer. But I have noticed that, like most people I've met, this book ain't perfect. For example, the coloring and the lining of the shells of both Hookbill the Koopa and Baby Bowser is wrong. This is still a great little guide to thunk through though, especially when taking into account that this is an actual guide. The locations of all the collectibles are accounted for, and every once in a while, it will tell me something that I didn't know. However, I'd be lying if I said reading this was anything more than a novelty. Now, one of the parts of this game that I honestly don't think gets as much credit as it should is the bosses. I'm of the opinion that this game has one of the best collections of bosses from any game ever, especially when considering this era of platformers. Even in the case of the best 16-bit platformers, the bosses is where they would often fumble. I mean, would you rather fight Master Neki or Master Neki Sr.? As for the bosses in this game, they sound similarly stupid, but these are actually some quality fights. Not this one though, this one stinks. Okay, as for another reason I did not take a liking to this game initially, the boss fights in the first two worlds are not nearly as creative as they would be in Worlds 3 and beyond. Aside from Salvo of a Slime, I don't think any of them are bad. But the bosses in the later worlds are the reason I say this is one of the greatest collections of bosses ever put together. Hookbill the Koopa and Raphael the Raven are the highlights here, and if you need proof, here's my tattoo. Hookbill starts out with this spectacular build-up, climbing up to the top of his castle before becoming all shrouded in fog. It makes the boss that follows it even more cool than it already was. But with Raphael the Raven, that was awesome. The boss fight shifts the whole perspective of the game and has you running around on the moon, which makes for one of the most memorable moments in the whole series. Next to, of course, the final boss. Hence, my other tattoo. You first have to go through Kamek, who will keep firing magic stuff at you unless you get up in his business, and at that point, it kinda just makes you feel bad. But then, Baby Bowser, that was like, Jesus, never mind. Once again, the game shifts its entire perspective and goes through this extraordinarily grand showdown as you throw giant eggs at Baby Bowser in the background as he menacingly waddles towards you. It's truly something to behold, but once that's done, the game is also done. Funny how that works. The credits play as Baby Mario and Baby Luigi are brought to their parents, and why didn't I play this game for so long?
I could also ask, is 70 a good IQ score?
This is a wonderful game with stellar graphics, solid mechanics, incredible bosses, amazing music, godlike level progression, and a decent little story. This game goes beyond what anyone would ever expect out of it. It has so much of its own style and charm while also just being flat out fun to play. This is the most pleasantly surprised I've been in quite some time. And maybe with that mindset, I could go back to see if its sequels are any good.
Nope, but now that I've been playing Yoshi's Island for quite some time, I think I'm finally ready to go back to the annual throwing objects at targets competition with some fresh experience under my belt. Wish me luck. Well, I didn't get last place this time, but I should have mentioned that the prize for second to last place is 2 black eyes.